Welcome back for another episode of Two Plane Sports. Today, 4th of July special. So we're recording this. This is July 4th for you guys. We've got a great week, upcoming week. Had a good week for Sooner recruiting. A lot of movement, a lot of hype heading into this week. We figure, I know it's a holiday weekend. We thought about taking the day off, but there's just too much to talk about to not record for you guys. But before we get into it, we just want to say we appreciate it. We hit that 4,400 subscriber mark. We have now passed it. We're now trying to go up to our 4,500 mark. Help us get us there. We got an ultimate goal of 10,000 subscribers. Hit the button, hit the notification bell, lets you know when we go live or post a video. And then find us on our social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple and Spotify. If you're listening to us on Apple and Spotify, leave us a review. It helps the algorithm on there spread the channel and get more people that are interested in some Sooner football and other OU athletics. And if you haven't been checking out our Twitter, and for those who have been, the Twitter's been doing really well. There's been a lot of good tweets going out, a lot of stuff that we've been trying to keep everyone in the loop with. And if you hadn't seen that, it's linked below. Go check it out. There's been a bunch of tweets and retweets and people, recruits talking about commitments and just showing love for OU. And it's good to find us on there. So if you hadn't already, do that. But this week, and we're counting through next Sunday, there could be 4 new Sooners a part of this 2023 chosen class. The first guy that comes to my mind, because he announced his commitment date, is Phil Piccioti. 4th of July, 8 p.m. Central, I believe. I believe it's 8 p.m. Central. He's announcing his commitment. And on 4th of July, this brings back memories. And I know a lot of people are not going to enjoy this, but I remember the 4th of July weekend when Caleb Williams committed to the Sooners, and the fireworks for that commitment. While Phil Piccioti, he's a 2023 3-star, number 445 overall, number 40 linebacker in the class, 6'3", 225 pounds, from Jaquaize, Pennsylvania. While he doesn't carry the number 1 quarterback rating, 5-star rating, I do feel like he is underrated. We've talked about that at length. 144 tackles, 19 tackles for loss. His junior season, he's got a top 4 of Nebraska, Michigan, Auburn, and Oklahoma. He's taken officials to every school. He's been to Oklahoma now 3 or 4 times, I believe. I know, like Auburn, he's only been there 1 time. A lot of crystal balls are in favor of the Sooners in this recruitment. And as you're watching this is Monday morning, so he commits tonight. Feel really good about him. What do you think, Jose?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's been a long time coming for him. Like you said, he's been on campus plenty of times. And I don't know who it is on Twitter, but there's someone on Twitter that has tweeted out for almost 100 days waiting for Phil's commitment. And it seems like it's finally going to happen. He won't have to tweet it out every day. Maybe he'll pick a new player. Who knows? But Phil's finally making his decision. Like you said, it seems like it's going towards Oklahoma. We'll find out what the real decision is tonight as you guys are watching this. But, I feel like a lot of people at this point are going to say, oh, it's just another 3-star. They're looking at the rating. And while I don't disagree with you guys, yes, it's another 3-star. You got to remember that at the end of the day, the rating right now is just up till their junior season. They still have an opportunity to get a 4th-star if they're talented enough, and like the scouting people on these websites, deem that they've had a good enough season to get that bump in rating. If you guys recall, Robert Spears Jennings was like in not even a top 1,000 player in last year's class, and then he took a huge bump because of a fantastic senior season. It's still very possible for all the guys that are playing their senior season. They have the opportunity to get that bumped rating. Who knows? Maybe Oklahoma will have 0 3-stars and a ton of 4-stars and a few 5-stars by the end of it. How likely that is, I don't know. I'm sure we'll still have a couple of 3-stars, but that at the end of the day, that doesn't mean anything. As long as these guys are willing to go out there and put in the work, they'll be just fine. Obviously, 5-stars just have a slight advantage because they're either more talented, they put in work a lot earlier than others. Who knows why they're 5-stars? Really just the people that are scouting them. But Well, the players are still good players, whatever program they go to, and the fact that they're at Oklahoma, they're going to be coached by some fantastic coaching.
Well, and another three-star linebacker that comes to my mind that became a Sooner great is Kenneth Murray, K9. I mean, he came in as a three-star and then he left as a first-round draft pick, and everyone loves him and everyone remembers how great he was. But we weren't, shooting off fireworks and thinking, oh man, he's the next great OU linebacker. And look what
I
happened.
did. I saw an interview that he did. I think it must have been like right as he was making a decision, or maybe the day he made the decision. And if I remember correctly, he was between Oklahoma and Texas. Were one or two schools that he was considering. And he said that he picked Oklahoma because he likes to win, and that was the sole reason. And you know what? Yes, we have a new coaching staff. Some players may see it differently now, but if you like to win and if you're on the defensive side, this staff is going to be the staff for you. In the past, if you were on offense, it clearly made sense, but now I think the defensive players should start trending more towards Oklahoma's way, and hopefully once Levy puts in a year or one football season under him at Oklahoma, you'll start seeing both sides of the ball attract the 5 and 4-star players that we all hope to get early in the recruiting cycles every year.
And then, just one more thought on that is, I guess two. So you're talking about, OU getting another three-star. Yeah, people might not be so excited. And I think that might be their 8th three-star commit in this 2023 class. If you really think about the recruits that are out there that are interested in Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's in a really good spot for, and genuinely interested in like taking their commitment like tomorrow if they wanted to, there's not many of the 3-stars left, like priority target 3-stars for the Sooners. I'm sure there's a couple that I'm not thinking of, but not a ton are coming to mind. Most of them are 4, high, 4 stars. Maybe they're composite 4 stars and maybe 3 on 247, but most of them are 4 stars now, 4 and 5. And I think that's where we're going to start to see, a lot of movement. It's in that 4-star range, whether it's low 4 or high 4s, you'll see some movement there. And you want to talk about Robert Spears Jennings making that jump. Well, PJ Adewale, while he's not going to commit this week, he's not in this video for that. When OU offered him, he was like 400th overall. He was in the same spot of a 3-star. So and now he's a top 100 player. And now everyone wants him, as fans want PJ because he's a top 100 player, but he still is the same player. He just improved, and that can happen for any of these guys.
Yeah. And to talk about another guy that made it a big bump, and it was literally just between a season, maybe even just a few months, Eric McCarty. When Oklahoma first got his commitment, he was an unranked player. He had 0 stars. No one cared, at least through the scouting world. Oklahoma fans knew who he was, and he's a local guy, so people were aware of him. But now he's a 3-star, and now he gets to go into his senior season ready to prove these scouting websites again. I belong with the players that are ranked ahead of me. Maybe he should be a 4-star. Again, they have to put it on the field and prove it, but the scouting system isn't a science. At the end of the day, there's still some subjectiveness in it, and the stars won't matter by the time they get on the field. You can be a 5-star and still have some terrible seasons at the college level before you can make a breakthrough.
And part of the problem is some of these kids play at way smaller schools and their exposure is limited. And sometimes they get discovered later, or just a bunch of different things. But I think Phil Piccioti is one of those candidates to make a tremendous jump his senior season, because you have 140 something tackles. I don't care what level of high school football, you're good. I mean, you have to be good to be putting up those numbers. So I'm really excited about it. And if anyone could get the most out of him, is Brent Venables. I mean, this is his position group. It's his defense. I think Phil Piccioti reminds me a lot of a Danny Stutzman, with the rating and kind of the underratedness with him. And then Stutzman, now we can't think this defense without him. We can't think of it without him. So, but yeah, I'm really excited about getting him. Hopefully, as we're talking like this, as if he's going to commit, it seems like everything is trending that way. and feel pretty good about him. So we'll move on. Another guy that we've talked about at length on this show is Cayden Green, 6'5", 315-pound offensive tackle from Lee Summit, Missouri. 2023 4-star. He is a 4-star top 100 player, number 92 overall, number 12 offensive tackle in the class. I believe he is going to be the first 4-star in recent memory to commit to the Sooners. I guess Hicks as well committed, but he's committing on July 8th. So that's just, the end of this upcoming week. He's going to be down between OU, Missouri, Nebraska, and it seems like LSU is there as well. He's been on campus now at OU 6-7 times. He canceled his Michigan visit. I know he did go to Missouri and did go on a visit, but he went more to hang out with some of his local friends, and I don't really see that being a really a big deal. Cayden Green, in my mind, is a cornerstone of this 2023 chosen class, and it would be a devastating loss to lose out on him because while we do like these 3-stars, Cayden Green has the frame of 6'5", 315 to come in and compete for a starting role day one, especially if he's an early enrollee. Getting that whole spring ball next year would be huge for him. I mean, you're already 6'5", 315. It's not like you're gonna have to come in and bulk up a ton. I mean, yeah, they might put on some more weight or body, muscle mass or whatever they're going to do with them, but that can be done over the course of 6 months. What do you think about him? And I feel really good. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel very good about Cayden Green, and the person outside of the coaching staff that needs to get the most credit for this guy's recruitment, hopefully if he makes a decision to go to Oklahoma, is Josh Bates. That guy has been on top of it on social media, calling him the next Trent Williams. And that, like, I think we've talked about this before, and I've said it, that is very high praise. Trent Williams is one of the best offensive tackles, probably one of the best football players to ever step on a football field. And when you're being compared to him, I feel like that's got to be a big deal, especially coming from a guy that's going to that school. You're being compared to him maybe by some of the people in the fan base. Big deal, right? So I think him coming to Oklahoma is going to have a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement in the fan base. Maybe something compared to a Jaren Kaenig from last year, right? We were all super excited. I think he was probably the most hyped up recruit, and not in a bad way, but just the entire fan base, just like in the snap of a finger, was behind him the whole way. Some people were already deeming him a starter. Some people were already putting him in like the highest of pedestals that they could think of. He's still got to go out there and prove it, but Cayden Green might have that same effect on the fan base. If he comes in, not only would he be one of the higher ranked players in this class as of the day that he commits, but he will be at a position where he'll pretty much, like Brum said, he'll get the opportunity to compete, especially if he comes in as an early enrollee. He'll get that spring ball to work with Schmitty, get used to the system, get work with Levy, work with Coach B, and then he's got the whole summer training to go through. So he's definitely, if he does early enroll, then he's got to feel confident about potentially starting going into his freshman year at Oklahoma, if that is the decision. Obviously, we do not know for a fact that is the decision until he announces it.
Yeah, I feel good, and like you said, we don't have any insider knowledge. I mean, it's just follow the visits, and he's been showing up often. I know OU is going to be having some big recruiting weekends, like the hosting kids. It won't be quite as big as like the June 3rd visit or all the official visits, but still, I think it's July 29th is supposed to be a really big visit. I think maybe the second week of July is also going to be a good weekend for a bunch of recruits to come by. And there's been talks about him maybe coming back on campus. So, I mean, it sounds positive, but crazier things have happened. But I think he's a cornerstone of this class. And if he hops on board between him and Josh Bates, they might be able to help convince Peyton Kirkland to join the fold. And then you have your center and your 2 offensive tackles, and you feel really good about this offensive line, like by the end of this month, because Kirkland is committing, I think it's later in July. Was it like the 23rd or something like that? I believe it's July 23rd for him, and LeBlanc's the 28th. But Kirkland,
like that.
Green and Bates would be a great haul, and probably one of the better hauls of an offensive line class than I can remember in recent memory for the Sooners. It's really great. Do you have any final thoughts on Green or any recruit?
Yeah, don't forget
Overall.
about our guy Heath. He would be
Oh,
the third if Kirkland came in. He would be the third tackle in this class. Who knows how Kirkland sees that. I think that it would be great for competition, and maybe one guy gets kicked in as guard. It really just depends on their versatility. But I mean, if we don't get Kirkland, we still have two good tackles in Ozeta. I think that's how you say it, and Cayden Green. So, maybe Kirkland does decide he wants to compete against some of the best at the offensive line.
that's actually a really good point. I forgot Heath Ozeta, and that part of it is because OU's been getting a handful of commits towards the end of June. Yeah, could one slide in as a guard? Maybe. I could see it happening. I mean, Ozeta is. I don't think he's over 300 quite yet, but both Kirkland and Green already are. So Ozeta might be more of a candidate if that were to come to fruition. So it's still a pretty good haul. It could be one of the better ones in recent, in the last 5 years, to hopefully win that the Joe Moore award. Gosh, I can't talk. And that'd be really good. So we'll move on to the next guy. An article came out and he tweeted it out. We're not sure when he's committing, but it's sometime this week. Is Jaquaize Pettaway, 5'11", 170-pound wide receiver from Houston, Texas. 2023 4-star, number 47 overall, and the number 8 wide receiver in the class. It's between OU, Texas. It's the Red River rivalry in this recruitment. OU hosted him for an official, and Texas also hosted him for an official. So OU hosted him on June 3rd. Ole Miss hosted him on June 10th. Texas hosted him on June 17th. A lot of momentum came out of that June 3rd visit for Pettaway and his family, visiting the Sooners. And then he visited Texas, and it didn't seem to really move the needle. And obviously, with Arch Manning hopping on, Texas has been tearing it up with the recruitment trail. It's been like 10 commits over the last 2 weeks or something crazy like that. They're like the number 3 recruiting class. And they've picked up a handful of wide receivers along with that. I mean, rightfully so. When you've got Arch Manning, he's going to be a good quarterback. They want to play with him. And so while he could still go to Texas, there's just an obvious need and a spot for him at Oklahoma. The only other wide receiver in this class is Keon Brown, and Pettaway comes in and he fills that role of a little bit of a smaller guy, more shifty. He's electric with the ball in his hands. As Brandon likes to say, he's not here, but his Jaquaize go crazy Pettaway. He put together a couple good seasons. He last year had 800 yards, 7 touchdowns. The year before he had 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. He is, in my mind, the number 1 target that OU's going after for the wide receiver spot. I know Greathouse is there, but I still feel like Pettaway is OU's number 1, and because the size and then fills the need. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And even the fact that it's down to Oklahoma and Texas, and you brought up a good point with Arch Manning a lot. They had 3 receivers go in and make their commitment right after Arch made his, a 5-star and 2 4-stars. So not that going to Texas would be, it would suck for his life because, he's probably going to lose Oklahoma for the rest of his football career, but he'll get plenty of money down there. Oklahoma's going to offer you money and winning. So it's really just like K9 said when he committed. Are you about the winning? Or are you not about winning? And if you are, then just come to Oklahoma, right? But yeah, he fills in the need. We're really kind of running low on the smaller wide receiver. Not that he's tiny, but after Drake leaves, we'll have Jalil Farouk, but Jalil still I think he measured in at 6 feet flat. So him and Jalil will kind of have that smaller wide receiver, I guess, but it'll be mainly them that I feel like the offense will be looking to, because then you can look at on the outside. There's Nick Anderson, who I believe is 6'3", Jaden Gibson, who's like 6'4", is Jayon Brown 6'2"? I can't remember his size, the specific sizes, but they're all huge.
They're all like 6'2" to 6'5".
Yeah, they're all big guys. So definitely getting a wide receiver that's on the smaller end would help to fill in just the whole wide receiver group. And Pettaway's, like you said, he's super athletic. The biggest thing that people are excited about, it seems like when you go through Twitter, is just how fast he is and how the ability that he has to go up and down the field, seemingly untouched a lot of the time. So hopefully, again, it's good news. Like you said, the commitment should come sometime this week. We'll see what he decides. I hope that it comes like shortly after Phil's does. Maybe I think Phil might be doing 8 p.m. Eastern time, since that's the time zone he's in, and then maybe Jaquaize does 8 p.m. Central time, and then we can just celebrate 2 commitments on the 4th.
That would be a great 4th of July. That's like fireworks for some Sooner football. But yeah, Pettaway, hopefully it's sooner rather than later, but it's worth the wait. I feel pretty solid about him. There was a while where I wasn't feeling too great, and it seemed like he went away, and you kind of reeled him back in. But between Cayden and Pettaway over the last few weeks, OU's not every position, but the guys that they've identified to their position group targets, it's looking like that they're going to start landing a lot of their number one priority kind of guys. Like, they've got Jackson Arnold, obviously number one. And then the next guy we're going to talk about is Daylan Smothers. While he might not have been initially the number one, he's the best running back that OU's been courting right now, and it's looking really good. We'll talk about him in just a second. Cayden Green, in my mind, is the number one, offensive tackle guy. While Kirkland's really good, it's like 1A, 1B. And OU's really trending well for like Makari Vickers and Derek LeBlanc and other people like that. While you might not be landing all the 5 stars, but if in your mind you offer these kids and you believe that they're great fits for your program and they're really talented and they're your number ones and you're landing them, that has to say something. In my mind, anyway, it does. While it might not be all the 1 through 30, but if you're still, the difference between number 30 and 75 is not much as far as ratings go. It's all like razor thin.
Yeah, if anything, I feel like as fans, we should look more at the position ranking rather than the overall ranking, because the overall ranking, yes, it helps with the rating at overall of the team and where they end in recruiting class. But if you get the number 7, wide receiver versus the number 8, it's really not that big of a deal, but they could be like 15 spots different amongst their entire recruiting class.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, quarterbacks are always going to get the preference to be higher up in the overall ratings, while they truly might not be the best athletes at the end of the day. I don't know. That's just like, is Arch Manning truly the number one overall guy? I don't know. Jackson Arnold's over there winning elite 11 MVPs, and maybe he should be number one. Anyway, last guy that could be committing, there's not been an official date, but Daylan Smothers is supposed to be committing towards the end of this weekend, the July 9th or 10th, somewhere in there. He's supposed to be committing over the weekend. He hasn't made a formal announcement on Twitter on like a date and time yet, but it seems like OU's in a really good spot with him. 2023 4-star, number 219 overall, and the number 9 running back in the class. He's 5'11", 182 pounds, from Charlotte, North Carolina. And that's Daylan Smothers. Last year, he had over 1,700 yards, 30 touchdowns. It's between OU, NC State, and I believe it's Florida State. Sorry, I almost blanked out, but it's Florida State. Seems to really be coming down to OU and Florida State. I know he's been on campus at Florida State, I think 3 times. He's been out to OU. I know he came out for an official. I don't know. I think he might have been out one other time. I can't quite remember. He got an offer in March from OU, but I think he might have come for an unofficial between then and the official. OU seems to be in a really good spot. I thought Florida State might have been able to convince him to join them because they got the last official, which was June 24th. But DeMarco Murray tweeted out, it's been a few days, Yamaha. It just kind of seems like that's who it's regarding. And And while Smothers wasn't identified as OU's number one, he is. Yeah, he wasn't identified as OU's number one in the very beginning. It seemed like OU's number one. I guess it's still Richard Young, but their number one was Trey Wisner for a while, and then Wisner went to Texas and committed back in April. And Daylan Smothers was quickly identified and targeted when they offered him in March. Smothers is the number 9 running back in the class. Uh, yeah, while he's number 219 overall, but like you said, Jose, we got to look at the position. Number 9, if you're getting a top 10 running back, that's really solid. What do you think?
So I'm looking up their rankings just amongst the running backs right now. So as they're loading, I think if it seems like we are getting Daylan Smothers, what, like you said, with DeMarco Murray tweeting out Yamaha, the usually does that whenever he's getting someone in his group. That's pretty good. That makes this wide receiver room as a whole pretty intimidating, very good in depth. That's something that the Sooners have been lacking over the last couple of years. It seems like we're always looking to who's going to somehow fill in the running back role. A couple of years back, it was Ramondre Stevenson. And then last year, it was just a whole shit show with Kennedy Brooks should be the number one, but then the staff really wasn't running the ball. It just didn't make sense how the offense was running last year. But now the whole room is stacked because like last year, right? Even though Eric Gray was there, if Kennedy Brooks were to ever have gotten hurt or injured, I don't think that anyone would have been like, oh yeah, Eric Gray can 100% carry the running load, or there's a guy to replace Eric Gray as the number 2 so that Eric can carry the running load, because we had Marcus Major out for the first half of the season because of the academic situation. And as much as people are big fans of Marcus Major, the biggest thing with him has been his availability for whatever reason. So if he does stay available this year, I think we've got a really solid room this year. And then going into 2023, we'll have the 2 guys we got this year in Sawchuk and Javante Barnes. We would have Caleb Hicks and Daylan Smothers. And then you would add on top of that, the transfer, Tawi Walker, who I think was probably one of the biggest winners from the spring game. That dude was doing amazing in the second half of the game. And I'm sure I'm missing someone else, but the running back room would have improved immensely over a year and a half. So I'm looking at the rankings right now. So yeah, Daylan is the number 9 running back in his class, and Trey Wisner was the 16th, or is the 16th currently. So like, really, we've identified, at least scouting wise, on these websites, and like I said, that's not perfect science, but according to these guys, we've identified a better running back, and it's not just a 1 and 2. It's a significant jump, but still, like the coaching staff is doing what they can to fill in each room with a lot of depth. I think that's one thing we've been missing for some time now: significant quality depth at every single position.
And I don't know exactly how long OU's been talking with Smothers before his offer. His offer came in March. I'm sure they've been talking to him, longer before then, but to offer a kid in March and then potentially get his commitment in July, that's pretty good. I mean, that's closing a guy out, really catching his attention and saying, hey, we want you to play football at Oklahoma, and this is why. And then they just sold it on him. And I think that really speaks to how well OU is recruiting. While OU is number 40 overall, I think it's a lot better than people think. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I'm just staring at these running back ratings. Treyon Webb, which was a guy that was committed, under Lincoln Riley's tenure this last year before he left, he's ranked number 5, like 5 to 9. I know it's a decent jump, but it's not like that big of a loss, really. They're that big of a skill gap, because he's rated at 93.24. Daylan's at 91.82. Like, the matter of one, like I said, one senior season, that's good. And last year he had 30 plus touchdowns. If he does that again, if he shows consistency, why can't he be up there in that 95.95 range, right? And really, like, we didn't lose him, but Richard Young He's number two. He's a number two running back. So like, I wouldn't call that a loss yet because we don't even know where he's committing. But I mean, imagine if we get that guy too. We would have three great running backs and Chop. You can't forget about our brother Chop down there with Richard. So we'll see. But just with these two running backs, I think this room will be stacked and everything will be just fine.
And the light will always be turned on and the door will always be open for Richard Young if he wanted to be a Sooner. It does seem like he's going to go to Alabama. I just don't think DeMarco Murray's going to really be pressing him too hard. If they do get Daylan Smothers' commitment this week or this weekend, I could see DeMarco really turning to that 2024 class and pushing Stacey Gage and whoever else they're going to really target. And it's a little early, but they've been talking to 2024 running backs and they've been offering, and Gage has been very receptive of that. I could see DeMarco really starting to focus on that. And obviously you got to maintain Smothers and Hicks to keep their commitments throughout, but I feel really good about that spot. DeMarco's recruiting at a very high rate right now and at a high level. But kind of some overall thoughts. OU right now, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, they're, according to 247, this recruiting class, 2023 class with 9 commits is number 40 overall. I did their class calculator. If these 4 commitments come through this week, all in favor of Oklahoma, and assuming no other commitments happen for any other top 10 school, OU will be number 9 by next Sunday, potentially, in the recruiting. They could go from 40 to 9 with 4 more commits. So it's 13 total commits. And immediately the narrative of the OU fan base and Texas fan base and, just general sports media around, the tone and attitude changes towards what Brent Venables and his staff are doing. Are they doing good? Are they not doing good? A lot of it's negative. It's 3-star U. Well, we just talked about 3 or 4 guys on here with 4-star ratings and a top 50 player as well. It changes overnight or within a week. And then it just doesn't stop from there. It's PJ Adewale, Jacoby Johnson, Makari Vickers, Peyton Kirkland, Derek LeBlanc. That's 5 guys off the top of my head that are all 4 stars, high rated 4 stars, all top 100 players for the most part, if I'm remembering it right. Man, I feel like by the end of July, people are going to be eating their words and eating some crow. What do you think?
Yeah, and then let's not forget about a couple linebackers. One guy that was called out directly by recent Sooner commit, Omasigo, Troy Bowles. He said directly, I want to make sure that we can get his commitment. That would be big. Not only, I think that would kind of have a little bit, maybe not as big of an Arch Manning effect, but kind of in a smaller impact and Arch Manning effect. He's got a dad that is coaching in the NFL. That right there would bring in so many more connections than this program already has, along with the staff is already bringing in. That would be huge. And then you got the other linebacker, Akana, the Hawaiian native who currently plays in Utah. He is a top 60 player, I believe, one of the best linebackers in his class. He got crystal ball to Oklahoma last week, seemingly out of nowhere. He has his official visit lined up for the end of this month, July 29th. So I mean, this, like you said, the entire narrative could change. And real quick on DeMarco, a thought ran by while we were wrapping up that I think this season or this recruiting cycle proves the reach that he has and how he can connect with these guys from all different cultures within the United States. He's last year he went to the West and pulled 2 guys from the West side of the country. And now he's going to the other side, getting Smothers. And it's clearly because, probably because of how the staffs are ultimately focusing their overall recruitment. Last staff really focused on the West Coast. This staff seems to really be focusing in on the East Coast, mainly in Florida. But he can do it. If you put him in a position to be, the lead recruiter, if Cale Gundy ever wants to step down for that position or just overall, leaves the program or retires for any reason, DeMarco can step up in that role and help out and make sure that he's got connections everywhere. And then we also have I can't remember the coach's name, but the guy that's like the head of high school relations, helping that out with DeMarco. So I think it's big time. I
Oh,
think overall this class is going to be just fine by the end of July.
yeah, the former Texas Tech coach, is it Mike Wells? Is that his name? Am I
Wells is
dreaming
definitely
that?
his last name,
Yeah,
but I
Wells.
can't
Maybe
remember his
it's
first name.
yeah, but yeah, that has to be helping too. I mean, that's a new position that OU's never had, or at least in recent memory, I've never even heard of this position for OU. I know other big time programs have it. That has to be helping, but I really think overall this narrative is going to change. While this week's going to be great, OU had, I think it was 5 commits in June. Could be the first full week of July. Could have 4 new commits. By the end of July, OU very well could have 15 to 17 commits, depending on a few other guys, whether Jacoby Johnson joins or McCarty Vickers joins, or just who commits and who's ready to, whether that drags into August or not. I still am standing by OU is going to have a top 7 worst case scenario class when it comes to February signing day. I am going to sit here and say this. I truly believe top 7 is the worst case scenario. It might be
That's
a
high.
bold prediction.
That's really high up there. I think top 10 for sure. And I said it before. I don't think Oklahoma at this point can get into the top 5 scenario, but I think that without question we would say in a top 10. Maybe finishing in at 7. I think that is at this point from how July looks realistic. We'll see. I think if Oklahoma has the bulk of their class by December early signing day, and it's just filling in the last 7 or 8 spots from December to February, this class is gonna keep that rating that they have, which I believe is gonna be top 10, maybe top 7.
Yeah,
Worst
maybe
case
so.
scenario.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like if a lot of these guys go, the Sooners way, and we weren't on, but we did the Two Planes Crystal Ball series. We missed on one, which is Cole Adams, it's fine. It's not going to be perfect, but like we were saying, 7 for 10, 8 for 10, 70 or 80% is a passing rate. And, going to school, 70% is passing. So I think OU is going to do really well in the month of July. This week's about to heat up, but there's a lot more still coming. It's going to be like every week almost. OU's going to get a commit. I don't know.
Yeah, they're really putting Hayes to work down there. Some people have been hating on Hayes Fawcett recently.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
me, he just does the edits, and that thing. They're pretty cool, and there's going to be a lot of Oklahoma edits this month.
yeah. He's got a pretty cool job.
Yeah,
Pretty cool job. So, but that's all we've got. I think this by the end of this week, the narrative's going to change. OU's going to be in a really good spot. OU should land all 4 of these guys. Do you want to do an individual challenge since Brandon isn't here?
why not? I feel like this one can be a little simpler. Brum and I just threw out our predictions for where we believe this class will end. When it's all said and done, Brum thinks worst case scenario it's top 7. I believe it's top 10. What are your guys' thoughts? Do you even think we get to the top 10? Do you think Brum and I are lowballing and you believe Oklahoma is going to be top 5, maybe even top 3? Do some of you believe that we can be the best recruiting class? I don't know. Throw it down there. Well, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, no, that's the truth. I think one might be a little ambitious, but I think in 2024, number 1 is not unrealistic
I agree with
with
that.
how
I
everything's
think
going.
2024 looks to be a very good year, but 2023 right now, my prediction is worst case scenario will be top 10, number 10, worst case scenario.
I'd still take that at the end of the day. So if you made it this far, we appreciate it. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, helps us out a ton. Comment, do the in video challenge. Let us know where you're going to or where you think OU is going to finish this year in the recruiting rankings. And be sure to find us on social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, and Spotify. If you're listening to us on either Apple or Spotify or anything else, leave us a review, honest review. It's fine. Either way, it helps us out, spreads the word. We can really tell an uptick in the Spotify and Apple users on our channel. And we just want to say we appreciate it. And we will be back Wednesday for another episode. It should be a pretty good one. And I think you guys will enjoy it. See you.